I felt like outside of my friends and family, when other people would go and look at me, then they would see someone in a wheelchair. They would see somebody who is disabled. And it was something I had to go and change. We have to go and understand that other people's perspectives, whenever they look at us, if someone else doubts, that's not us. It's how we look at ourselves. That's the most important thing. My grandmother taught me that when I was like 4 years old. She used to go and take me around in grocery stores. And I used to wear prosthetic arms and legs when I was out in public. And so I felt like I couldn't go out in public if I didn't have the arms and legs on. And that was like kind of like my safety net to go and make me feel comfortable with myself. And when I was going out in public with her, she would take me to grocery stores without the arms and legs on, and she would go and set me in the front seat of the grocery cart. And while she was shopping for dinner, we'd go up and down the aisles. And if anyone was looking at me uncomfortable or staring, she just taught me just to go and reach out and shake their hand. Tell them, "Hi, I'm Kyle." She said, once people hear your voice and once they see your face, then nothing else will matter. The rest will fade away. And that's now, for those of you that I've already gotten a chance to meet, that's my first instinct is whenever I meet somebody just to go and reach out and shake somebody's hand. Since I was a kid, I've done this, so I've kind of gotten used to it now. Sometimes, like 99% of the time, somebody will reach out and shake hands right away, right? And you get that 1% of the time, you see that, like, eyes get big and, like, look at hair. Like, whoa, guy doesn't have a hand, what do I shake? He wants to shake my hand, awkward. But I think we do this with a lot of things in our life, where we go and we say that, all right, I am going to be a victim in whatever circumstance. Maybe it's something that, the goals, are too high. Maybe it's, the government's holding me down. There's too many regulations. Maybe it's that next doctor's office that you guys go and call on, right? That they don't understand, and it's just, too hard. Maybe it's something in your personal life, right, that is just completely out of your control. There are going to be things that are, no matter what I do, I will never wake up and be born with my arms and legs. But even if I could have a chance to go back and do that and be born with them, I would choose not to. Because it has been the greatest gift that I've ever been given. And it's only in those challenges and learning through and growing through these things that we truly can grow. It took me 14 years to figure out how to dress myself for the first time. So I used to have to, my parents would go and help me get dressed, and I became dependent on their help. And even when I was going and competing and playing sports or whatever else, and that was still something that, like, they would just help me do because it was quicker. It took me a long time to be able to have that first experience to do it on my own. It was actually my friend Joey's fault that him and his mom were going to go and pick me up, and he wanted to take me to a movie. I was sitting in the house in sweatpants, and like my parents were out at the Collins Hill Park with my sisters, actually, because they were going to go and they were in a softball tournament. And so in a panic, I call my mom up thinking there's no way my 14-year-old ego is going to ask my best friend and his mom to dress me. And she said, all right, well, let me call you back in a couple minutes. They're about 10 minutes away from where we lived. And she calls me back and said, about 5-10 minutes later, she calls back and says, you're going to have to figure out a way to do it on your own. It took me over an hour to get dressed for that first time. First sock that I put on was over 30 minutes. Got paper clips that I used to go and try to pull a sock up over my foot to go and get it on, and could barely hold on to the paper clips because I was sweating so bad, drenched. And I was like in wrestling shape at the time, and I was working pretty hard to get the sock on. And it was a huge struggle. The learning curve was cut in half, and the next sock took me about 15 minutes. And zipping up my pants, then you use the same paper clip to go and pull a zipper up, and I still, to this day, leave my pants unbuttoned. Otherwise, I'll be trapped inside of them. It's my big secret. And there's a word that I kind of used to go and define that entire experience that I call my apogee. And apogee is a word that we use in science to go and define the orbit of a satellite. And anytime that you have an orbit of an object, you're going to have the object's going to go and reach the furthest point away, right? I use that as kind of a metaphor for my life, like by seeking that thing and to kind of continually go and better myself and to go and live deeper, more rich experiences and the things that I want, then it's going to go and better everything else, because reaching for that point is going to go and expand the orbit and the experiences of everything. We can go and live by seeking our passion and the thing that we love the most. We're capable of expanding our area of influence so much. I'm sure you've had instances where you've wanted something really bad, but when you start out, then you're bad, right? Especially in what you guys do in a sales role. I mean, how hard is it to go and get started sometimes? To be able to go and deal with the rejection and being beat over and over and over again. Because that's what happened to me when I was wrestling. I was knocked down match after match after match. My dad tricked me into coming out, telling me he was going to be like Hulk Hogan and all those guys. I got out there and I was like, "Where's the ring?" It was a really tough period. It took me 1.5 years to win my first wrestling match, and created a lot of doubt. Because when I would go out to a tournament, my father would enter me in a weight class, and I would wrestle in the morning, and I would lose, and I would wait all day to wrestle again that night and lose again. If I wrestled against a good opponent, then I would wrestle really well. If I wrestled against a bad opponent, then I would wrestle just barely bad enough to lose. Because I started buying into the lies that other people were telling me about, like, I could hear coaches and other kids talking about, like, "Oh, this guy doesn't have, like, the grip and the reach and the leverage and all these tools that he needs to win." Because obviously you can't win a wrestling match without grabbing hold of somebody else. You can't win a wrestling match without having that reach to go out and get a hold of the guy's legs. You know, and because other people were telling me that, then I started making that my own reality. And it was because of this I kept losing these matches. I lost 35 times in a row. I was questioning, like, a lot. I mean, it didn't just make me lose in wrestling. I would come home crying, and I would think about my role in the world, in society. Like, would I ever be able to have a normal family, normal wife, kids? Like, would I be able to have a normal job? Like, if I couldn't succeed in this sport, then what was going to be like my place in the world? It was one of the toughest periods that I ever went through. And each loss kind of confirmed that, right? I mean, we know how that is. It's hard. When you are rejected over and over again, it's a lot easier to go and slip into that role of being a victim. I mean, for me, I had so much fear going into these matches. It's built up more and more. And I remember that I finally had a moment that just, like, took that fear off me. That I was warming up before the first kid that I beat, and looked across the mat, and I saw this kid that I was about to go and wrestle, and he was warming up too, and I made eye contact with him for just about a half a second. And when I saw his eyes, I could see that he was just as scared as I was. And that realization just washed over me. I was like, if he's going to be afraid of me, like, I'm the guy without my arms and legs. And ended up, at that moment, I said, I'm going to let him be afraid for both of us. Took all that fear off of me. We came out there and shook hands. The referee blew the whistle, and I came in after him, grabbed hold of this kid's arm, rolled him, took him down, landed on top of him. My friends and family, coach went nuts. My dad, everybody's yelling moves at me. I was excited because I'd gotten on top of this kid and thinking to myself, like, this is cool, but I have no idea what to do now. There wasn't, like, a next step in the manual, so I was like, my dad told me to go and let him up. And I had like that fear that if I let him go, then I wouldn't be able to go in and do the same thing again. So I was going to try to hold on to what I got. And my dad, he told me to let him go, so I did. And I went in after him again and grabbed hold of his arm and used the same move. Took him down, let him up. Took him down, let him up. Took him down, let him up. Same thing repeatedly. And they stopped the match in the third period when I beat this kid by a technical fall, which is a 15-point mercy rule gap. It changed my perspective completely. Now all of a sudden I had that belief that I deserved to win these matches, that all of a sudden I was capable. When you start to build up that confidence in what you are capable of in your life, and you start to gain that momentum and roll with that, it's a powerful thing. And that can continue to go and confirm, and we say that competence begets confidence, and confidence begets more competence. And I was gaining that. It was the last losing season I ever had. By the time I was a senior in high school, I placed top 12 in the nation against other able-bodied wrestlers. Won 36 varsity matches my senior year. It was that choice. It would have been so easy to go and give in to that belief, though, that other people were telling me that I couldn't do it. When other people are telling you that you are not good enough, that you cannot do something, that your dreams are too big, that is a lie. And I believe wholeheartedly, once we have that and we understand that power and that influence that we can go and wield in the lives that we are capable of changing, then there are no worthy excuses. Thank you guys very much for having me.